Good morning, this is your math sensei, Mr. Sensei, and we're going to write linear equations from real world scenarios. But first, we're going to begin with a warm up reviewing uh, parallel and perpendicular lines. So they gave us the equation 2x plus 3y equals negative 18. Solve for y and graph it below. So we want to place it in y equals mx plus b format. This is what we want to end up with. And they gave us 2x plus 3y equals negative 18. Well, that's a positive 2x. I need y by itself. So I need to move this 2x to the other side, and I'm going to do that by subtracting 2x from both sides. This drops off, and now we have 3y equals negative 2x minus 18. All right, next thing I need to do, and by the way, these are not like terms, so we can't combine the x's and the 18, the variables and the constants, but I can separate this coefficient from the variable by dividing by 3. When I do that, I end up getting y equals negative 2/3 x minus 6. So we're in y equals mx plus b format. So we know that our y-intercept is at 0, negative 6. So we'll go ahead and plot that at 0, negative 6. Our slope is down 2 over 3. Don't forget about the angry man eyebrows. Kind of don't have room for them, but here we go. So we need a downward slope and up 2 and over 3 this way. All right, at this point, we need a straight edge to draw a straight line. And there we go. Okay, next says find point slope form of the equation. In other words, they want us to use this form right here that is parallel to the equation on the right and passes through the point negative 6, negative 4. Well, the good part is they've already given us a starting point. The starting point they gave us was negative 6, negative 4, so we can write that down. We want this to be in y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Well, we know the y is a 4. We know the x is a 6. However, when they go into the equation, the negative is a change operator, so it swaps the sign, or you can call them liars. So this becomes a positive 4, and this becomes a positive 6. Now, the slope, they wanted us to use the slope from the previous equation. Well, the slope from the previous equation was negative 2/3. So I can go ahead and write that in. And once again, we just took that from the previous equation. And how did I know that? Parallel lines have the same slope. So parallel lines have the same slope. This is my starting point, negative 6, and then negative 4, which is right here. And the same slope. So down 1, 2, over 1, 2, 3. And down 1, 2, and over 3. All right. The next thing is find the slope form of the equation point slope form of the equation that is perpendicular to the equation on the right and passes through negative 6, negative 4. So we want the point slope form. So we still want this same form, but this time we need to be perpendicular. All right. Well, once again, they asked for a starting point. The nice thing is that they gave it to us, negative 6, negative 4. And that's the same one we had before, so that's nice. But our slope, we're supposed to use this same slope, but it's perpendicular, which means we have to flip it and change the sign. This was negative, so this will be a positive. And technically, you don't have to write the plus sign, but I just wanted to make a distinction between the two. So we have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we know that this is a 4. This is 3/2. This is x. And the x's are associated with the 6. But remember, they're liars, so this becomes a +4 and a +6. Well, going back to my starting point of -6, -4, which we already have, we're going to go up 3 and over 2. So up 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. Up 1, 2, 3 and over 1, 2. 1, 2, 3 and over 1, 2. And at this point, we can go ahead and connect our lines. Oops, I have a miscount. 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. That line's wrong. And then up 1, 2, 3 and over 1, 2. There we go. You all probably caught that. So ignore the spiders. Ones with the X with them are not quite right. So there we are. We have perpendicular line. And please remember, perpendicular lines means it forms 90-degree angles. So in this case, we have 90-degree angles right there, 90-degree angles right there, 90 and 90. So we have right angles at those points. All right. So we're going to learn how to write slope-intercept form from word problems. So the key words for slope: per, percent, for every. It may just say every instead of for every. It might say each, rate, and daily. All right. So those are key words. The y-intercept began, start, base, flat fee. Okay. An airplane 30,000 feet above the ground begins descending at a rate of 2,000 feet per minute. So we have the word rate, which we already have here, and 2,000 feet per minute. Both of those are slope words. So we know our slope is 2,000. All right. And assume the plane continues to descend at the same rate. Now, at the same time, we know that we want this to be in y equals mx plus b format. Well, we know 2,000 is the slope, so we go ahead and put that there. I'll put the x in parentheses. But there's a key word, and that's descending. Is descending going to be positive or negative? Well, descending is going down, and down is a negative, so this is a negative 2,000. Okay, so we've taken care of that part of things. We have this 30,000 feet. What is that? Well, that's where it started at. It started at 30,000. And that's 30,000 above, and above is positive, so this is plus 30,000. So y equals negative 2,000 x plus 30,000, and we've written our equation. That's awesome. Now it says find the plane's altitude after 5 minutes. Well, guess what? That 5 minutes time ties back to, here it says per minute. All right. So that 5 minutes happens to be our x value. So I'm going to be plugging this in for x. So I have y equals negative 2,000 parentheses 5 plus 30,000. I'm going to swap over to Desmos real quickly, and we'll solve it there. So in Desmos, I'm going to go ahead and type the equation as it stands. Y equals negative 2, 1, 2, 3, parentheses, x, parentheses, plus 30, 1, 2, 3, 30,000. But we know this x is a 5 because it's time in 5 minutes. Oops, that should be a plus sign. So I'm going to back up real quickly since I kind of messed that up. I'm going to put that x back in there. So there's my equation. And I'm going to go ahead and type in 5 for 5 minutes. It's like, oh, it's at 20,000 feet. So y equals 20,000 feet. So that's my answer to that part of it. So we'll swap back over. And write y equals 20,000 feet. All right. How long until the plane reaches the ground? Well, if it's at the ground, we know it's going to be 0 feet. So the y is 0. So we have our original equation, which is y equals negative 2,000 x plus 30,000. Well, we're going to plug in 0 right here because we want to be 0 feet. And now we're looking for the x. All right, we're going to switch over to Desmos real quickly, but before we do that, remember, we're going to have to do some swapping out. We're going to have to change the x. It's going to have to be an n, and the equal sign, we're going to have to change to a squiggle to do that. So here we go. We'll swap back over to Desmos real quickly. And I'm going to go back to my original equation where I had an x. Well, we need to change some things. We're going to change the y into a 0. And it's like, ooh, it won't do that. Well, that's because I have to change this into a squiggle. And this becomes an n. And then we find, oh, n is 15. So in this case, y equals 15, and that is our answer for that particular problem. All right, switching back over to our regular screen. So y equals 15 is our answer. Moving on. A band spends $3,200 to rent equipment for a summer concert tour. They earn $8 profit for every ticket sold. Write an equation for the total profit P after selling N tickets, taking the initial cost into account. Well, first off, that 3,200, that's money they spent, so that's a negative. But they get 8 profit for every ticket. Well, there's that key word, for every. For every is a slope word, so we know that $8 is M and we want it in Y equals MX plus B. So if we're wanting it in Y equals MX plus B, we know this is 8 and N tickets, we don't know how that is. N, P is the profit afterwards. Now that 3,200, that's not adding, that's taking away, and that's what they spend initially. So that's the initial amount. So began with, start, initial. All right. So minus 3,200. All right. So we have our equation. All right. It's in y equals mx plus b format. And it says, so what is the profit after selling 500 tickets? Well, that means we have P equals 8 parentheses N minus 3,200. Well, N is the 500. So we're going to just have P equals 8 parentheses. Oops. Start over. P equals 8 parentheses 500. because that's how many, the number of tickets times minus the 3,200. So switching over to Desmos real quickly to let the Desmos do the calculations for us. So our equation in y equals mx plus b formula is if we go p equals 8 parentheses n minus 3,200. And we have this equation. We go ahead and plug in our 500 for n, and we find out, oh, the profit is $800. So P equals $800 profit. So P equals $800 in profit. So how many tickets must be sold to reach a profit of $10,000? All right. Well, P is profit, so we know the $10,000 is profit, and we're looking for N, the number of tickets sold. So let's go back to our original equation. Our original equation is P equals 8 parentheses N minus 3,200. Well, in this case, we know our profit is 10,000, which is what our P is. We're looking for N minus 3,200. Okay, well, the nice thing is we already have an N there because Desmos is going to require this being N. But remember, we're going to have to take that equal sign. We're going to take that equal sign and we're going to have to change it to a squiggle. So let's switch over to Desmos and do that real quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and back and change this to what it was. This was an N. And I'm going to put in 10,000. And it won't do it until I change that into a squiggle. All right, so N is 1,650. So 1,650 equals N. N equals 1,650 tickets. All right, so let's stop at share, take a look at that. So when we solved it, it gave us 1,650, so we need to sell 1,650 tickets. The next one, suppose you receive $1,000 for a graduation present and you deposit it in a savings account. Then each week thereafter, you add $50 to the account, but no interest is earned. Find an equation for the amount Y you have after X weeks. All right, so Y equals MX plus B. Let's look for keywords. Receive $1,000 for a graduation present. Well, that's a one time. So once again, initial, start with one time. All right. And you deposit in a savings account. Then each week thereafter, you add $50. Okay. You add $50 each week. There's the key word, each. So that 50 is my slope. So M is 50 because of the word each. So Y, so we know what Y equals 50x plus the initial amount of $1,000. So my equation is just simply Y equals 50x plus 1,000. So how much will you have after 9 weeks? Well, X is the number of weeks. So we have Y equals 50x plus 1,000. We have 9 weeks, so Y equals 50 parentheses 9 plus 1,000. So let's go ahead and solve that in Desmos just to make our life easier. And putting in our initial equation, which was Y equals 50 x plus 1,000. So there's our equation. I should have put that in parentheses. But for x, we are going to input 9. So we have y is $1,450. So that's how much you would have after 9 weeks. So after 9 weeks, you'd have $1,450. Then it says, how long until you'd have $3,100? Well, that's the total amount. So really what it's saying is how many weeks. So how many weeks until you have that? So we have our original equation, which is y equals 50 parenthesis x plus 1,000. I'm going to plug in 3,100. So 3,100 equals 50x plus 1,000. Now, please remember, for Desmos, x has to be changed to n, and equals has to be changed to the squiggle. So that's what we're going to have to put into Desmos. I'm going to scratch out that little thing right there. That's a nothing. All right, so we're going to plug that into Desmos and see what happens. So our original equation was this. We're going to go ahead and drop in our new y value, which is 3,100, and it won't solve it. So I change the equal sign to a squiggle, and I change the x to an n. And it tells me, oh, it would take 42 weeks. So a little bit less than a year. So n is 42 weeks. And that's what we have there. N is 42 weeks. That's our answer. I hope this helped. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Good luck writing equations. Thank you.